Hey everyone, welcome back to Legal Marketing Live. I'm Mark Sterniglia, partner at Spotlight Branding, and filling in for Daniel Decker today is our one and only Director of Client Services, Ben Sarver. How are you doing today, Ben?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Awesome,
Glad
awesome.
to be here.
Absolutely. Well, we missed Danny, but I think you're going to probably do a better job anyway. So we're glad to have you here. So today we're actually talking about the importance of building trust with your marketing. So Ben, I'm actually going to turn over you to start with, in your words, and I'll kind of add some thoughts too, but why do you think it's so important? I mean, marketing, you can accomplish a lot of things with marketing, right?
Yeah.
But why is building trust, especially for lawyers, such an important part of marketing?
So, when it comes to something as important as, your legal viability, in various areas of the law, whatever area of the law, you're working in, it's essential that your potential clientele trust you. That's the baseline. That is where, you have to have credibility for them to be able to move forward and feel comfortable moving forward with you. And it's really, it's going to be an uphill battle if you don't develop some trust from the very beginning. If there isn't some sort of trust in place there, you're going to have very little chance of being able to bring a potential client into the fold.
Right. And I feel like that's I think you said it best when you said create at the beginning. I think that was one of the most important things you said, because I don't think anyone out there is going to disagree that trust needs to be part of the relationship, right? But I think that most people assume that the trust gets created maybe once they become a client, or maybe in the consultation, right? Like that's when trust gets created. But I think it's really important to acknowledge that you can actually start creating trust before they ever even walk in your door. Matter of fact, before they even pick up the phone and make a phone call, right?
Absolutely. I mean, trust is what they're looking for in an attorney.
Sure.
It's not, let me pick and choose out of this giant pool and see who I can trust. It's, I'm going to pick and choose the people that I think I can trust.
And that's probably important too, because there is a giant pool.
Exactly.
I mean, I think that's where it's so important to acknowledge the internet and how the industry's changed. It's really important that if you're a lawyer out there, you understand that professionally speaking, you're a dime a dozen.
Right.
Doesn't mean you yourself are, right? But there are no shortage of options for people. And I'm not even talking about there's no shortage of options on Google.
Right.
I mean everybody knows a lawyer.
Yeah.
Right? I can ask 7 friends and get 7 different referrals.
Yeah.
I can go to Google and get 100 different options. And if you're in a smaller city, maybe it's 20. But I mean, the point is, no matter what medium you're trying to find a lawyer through, there are plenty of options. And I think you make a good point that creating trust is one of the first things you need to do. Because look, if they're looking for someone to help them do their will, yes, your marketing needs to say, I do wills.
Yeah.
But once it does that, what's really left after that? They're not just going to go, oh, okay, you do wills, so I'll call you.
Yeah.
Right? Your marketing needs to create some trust.
And I think what it really boils down to is the perceived trust. That's almost kind of the key word there, is they have to be able to look at you, look at your, marketing, your digital presence, whatever the case may be, and be able to perceive trust and credibility. And so I think the big question there is how do you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that the first thing you need to do is that your website needs to be an educational resource.
Yes.
Among other things, I think that's one of the most important things, and I really like that term, educational resource, because it's amazing how there's inherent trust that gets created when you begin to educate somebody, right? Like when you provide information that answers a question or is relevant to their situation, I think there's just an inherent trust that gets created.
Absolutely. You're kind of, when you start showing that you have these answers, that you can educate others on a topic, that builds credibility, that creates that perceived trust that you're an authority in that field. You're not going to be educating people on a field if you're not an authority in that field.
Right. So in your opinion, what are some of the simple things someone should do on their website to kind of make their website more of an educational resource?
Absolutely. I think one of the first and most important tools is having a good blog, a consistent blog. Being able to put blog materials on your website that are going to give some practical value. I know we've talked a lot in the past about how you can blog and how to go about it, but having that blog that you keep up to date on your website is really going to demonstrate that you know, give you an opportunity to educate people on
Absolutely.
various topics and show, you know, that you have some knowledge while also providing some practical value.
Yeah, no, and a simple example of that, to go back to the estate planning one from a second ago, if I go to your website, okay, maybe I can see on your homepage or I can see in your main menu that, yes, one of the things you do is wills, right? But if I then click on your blog and sprinkled in there are a couple articles about the essential parts of a will,
Right.
or, you know, a few articles about when you should do a will or what the right time in life is to update a will. The funny thing is, even if I don't read those blogs,
Yeah.
just the fact that you kind of have this additional educational content, right? None of that content is like why you should hire me to do your will,
Right.
right? Because that's not educational anymore.
Yeah.
That's selling. That's trying to sell. But I think when you have when you take that educational approach, you know, it just creates a different user experience, even if that user doesn't necessarily read every word. So what are some other things they can do on their website?
So video is another excellent tool.
Absolutely.
It serves a lot of similar purposes to blogs in providing some practical answers for people, you know, some actual value that they can get from those answers that are given in the videos. But it serves the dual purpose of helping to build some rapport and comfort
Yeah.
with you as an attorney, because when someone can see your face, see how you know, talk and how you interact, even, you know, just you speaking to a camera, it makes a lot of difference in their ability to trust you. You're real, you know, you're a
Absolutely.
real person at that point, and it really helps to build that credibility right off the bat.
Absolutely. And another one I'll add too, I think, you know, have other types of free resources, maybe downloadable material, some sort of like free report, free ebook, white paper, you know, you name it whatever you want. And, you know, and you don't have to make it that complicated. Like if you want to go publish an ebook on Amazon, great, go for it. But, you know, you could also create a document in Microsoft Word, export it as a PDF,
Right.
and have a 2 or 3 page, you know, special download or something like that. And what's really nice, you know, a side note, we've mentioned this in other episodes too, if you do something like that, usually you can ask for like an email address.
Yep.
So that's a nice benefit. But all of a sudden, when you get to somebody's website and they've got educational content in blogs, educational content in video, educational content in you know, sort of like downloadable material, I really think that, you know, that puts it over the top. Is there anything else that you can think of in terms of the website, or does that mostly cover it?
I think that pretty much covers the you know, the digital website presence in particular. Yeah.
So one of the other things that come to mind is just kind of, I think, I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but I know for me, I think just being part of a younger generation, I think that I just have some expectations too of what I expect to see online, right? Like
Yeah.
I expect to see a social media presence.
Right.
I expect that the
Right.
website's going to look nice.
Right.
You know,
It's become ubiquitous at this point. I mean, you had like, if you are looking up any sort of service, whether it's a lawyer or something else online, and they don't have any sort of social media presence, it's going to give you pause. It's going to give you something, you know, what's going on here? Why are they not up to date? Are they not, you know, someone that's really focused
Right,
on this?
right.
You know, yeah.
So how about, let's kind of talk about another side of trust too. I mean, how important is it to try to create, or better yet, maintain trust with people you've already met through your marketing?
I mean, I think that's essential too. We use the term top of mind awareness quite a bit. It's, you know, maintaining relationships is nearly as important as you know, what you do to start them in the first place.
Right.
So, you know, you have to cultivate them over time. We talk about newsletter as being one of the most important
Right,
tools for
right.
that. You know, being able to reach out and push those educational resources we talked about to the people you've already established some, you know, degree of a relationship with. But, you know, the more you continue to reach out and create that top of mind awareness, you'll, you know, cultivate that relationship even more.
Right. I mean, I think it's pretty true that familiarity breeds trust. Rapport breeds trust,
Sure.
and so just like it's important to build trust with potential new clients or potential new resources, there is a certain element that it's valuable to kind of maintain trust,
Yeah.
and you can do that through top of mind awareness and just maintaining a level of familiarity and
Right.
rapport. You know, there's also a couple other things that I think are specific to the idea of building trust that lawyers can do. Starting your own podcast
Yeah, that's a
can
great
be a
one.
really great way to impress people. I think taking on speaking engagements is really important. So whether we're talking about offline, online, Just what are some of your thoughts on some of those topics or any others you have? Just some of the things that the lawyers can do, beyond maybe some of the main things we always talk about. So things like speaking, podcasting, writing a book.
Absolutely,
even.
yeah. It definitely doesn't have to be isolated to your website. It doesn't have to be isolated to the digital sphere. I mean, speaking engagements, one of the things you just talked about there, that's a huge way to build credibility. Again, it goes back to what we talked about. If you are educating people on a topic, you are going to be perceived as an authority figure, as an expert in that field.
Right.
So when you go and participate in speaking engagements, not only are you putting your name out there and putting yourself out there to network and meet more people, but those people are going to look at you. They're looking up to you. They're looking at you as a figure that they can trust. And that's, our buzzword. They trust you at that point.
Right, and I think it's really important we're talking about this too, because almost everything we've talked about, it'd be really tempting to want to analyze the individual ROI of any one of those things, right? You say, oh, why should I start a podcast? Do I get any leads from my podcast, or why should I speak here? I spoke at this event and 20 people were there, but did I get any leads that day? And we have to understand that part of the ROI is more that you're building this trust with your market. Same thing with your website and some of the other things we talked about there. If you're building trust and rapport, there's also always an ROI there. Yeah. Let's kind of transition as we wrap up here and talk about, I think, another side of building trust, and that's social proof.
Yes.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the things maybe that a lawyer can control.
Right.
Okay, which is their own content and kind of their own marketing efforts. But social proof is really important too. And so all we mean by social proof is what other people have to say.
Yeah.
Right. So what are some examples of social proof, Ben, and maybe what are your thoughts on some of the proactive things a lawyer can do to put more of that out there?
Absolutely. So, social proof, you're talking about your testimonials, your reviews on the internet. It's information from other people who have interacted with you. And
so this could be testimonials on your website. This could be reviews on Google, Facebook,
Yelp.
Avvo, obviously.
Absolutely, Avvo.
Where you can get clients' reviews to review, and you can even get lawyers to review you. So all of this is social proof.
Right, and I mean, when you think about it, when you're looking for a service online, one of the first things you're probably going to do is see if they have good reviews. I mean, that's just become the natural go-to. You want to know how others, have perceived their experience with you. Have they gotten, have they had a good experience with you in the past? And I mean, no matter what you do, people are almost always going to trust other people like them over your own word, over the lawyer's word. So, those testimonials, those reviews are really essential tools, and you do have, some control over trying to build those online, build that presence online. Absolutely. It's actually requesting them from clients.
Well, yeah, because I think it's a common fact just among the world of business that if you don't proactively seek reviews, more people leave reviews when they're upset than when they're happy with something.
Yeah.
So I think it's super important that you ask.
Yeah. It's as simple as a simple phone call, a simple interaction on your way, on their way out the door, or sending an email with a link to the site. Would you mind? It would really help my business if you could just leave a review on this site for me. And you can control that in asking the people that have had a positive experience.
Absolutely, I think I would say build it into part of your policies and procedures of when you wrap up something with a client, wrap up their case or their situation. You should already have something in place where you take some time kind of on their way out, so to speak, to educate them on other ways you can help them in the future, educate them on how much you appreciate referrals. And one of the things you can do is say, hey, I'm going to send you an email.
And make it as easy as possible for them.
Yeah,
that's really essential.
Absolutely. I think you made a great point about sending links. And one thing you might want to do as well is you can say, hey, what I'm really asking for is your feedback. If your feedback's positive, please leave a review. If you actually have any negative feedback, I would actually love to hear that as well. Just please email that to me.
Right.
And I think that can really work out well. So I think getting social proof is really important. I would even just quickly add that with testimonials on your website, a lot of people are kind of fearful about that, but most state bar associations, they don't actually have a problem with testimonials. as long as they're objective. Like, you know, you can't say, oh, Ben's going to win your case for you.
Right.
But someone can say, I really enjoyed working with Ben. He was very attentive.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend him. Most state bars, if not all of them, are going to allow you to have things like that on your website. So I think it's kind of time to wrap up. Ben, thank you so much for joining us this
Absolutely.
time. So again, it's very important that you see trust as one of the biggest initiatives in your marketing. One of the biggest ways you determine success is by how well you feel like your marketing is building trust. We're going to go ahead and drop a link into the comments here. That's going to be a resource for you that you can download and take a look at. That's going to kind of help you dive a little bit more into this. And you know, if you have any more questions, please drop them into the comments as well. But as always, we'll be back every Thursday to talk more about this stuff. And thank you for joining us.